Hey everyone, welcome to our webinar today. Sorry, a couple of quick technical gremlins at the start there, but hopefully everything's good now. Just give us a shout in the chat box if things don't move along properly. Today's our Think PPC webinar, and we're going to talk a little bit about CRO tactics that drive results. Some really awesome experts in the field, and I think they're going to be able to share a load of valuable insights with all of you. So first is Ollie Gardner. He's the co-founder of Unbounce, which is a really great piece of CRO landing page testing software. He'll be a HeroConf speaker, and you can reach him at Twitter at Ollie Gardner. Then I have Lance Loveday. He's the CEO of Closed Loop, a user experience agency. He'll also be a HeroConf speaker, and you can reach him at Loveday on Twitter. And then you have me, I'm Samo, and I'm your host for the webinar today. I'm a senior account manager at Hanapin, a blogger at PPC Hero, and I'll also be speaking at HeroConf. So if anyone wants to come along to HeroConf and hear us again, we'd love to have you. So again, our topic today is CRO tactics that drive results. If you'd like to join in the conversation, you can use the hashtag ThinkPPC on Twitter, or you can use the webinar question box there to ask us any questions, and we'll try and get round to those at the end and do a bit of a Q&A for you all. So we're going to start here just to get everyone warmed up and into the webinar with a live poll question. So really we're just going to see how long you've been in PPC, and I know this is a CRO webinar, so maybe the question is just how long you've been in digital marketing in general, and just so we can get a feel of everyone's experience level. So that's A for less than a year, B for 1 to 3 years, C to 3 to 5 years, and D for 5+ years. So I guess I'll throw this one over to you guys just so you can introduce yourself. So Ollie, how long have you been working in the world of CRO or digital marketing?
Hello, everybody. Thanks, Sam. I guess my career has gone through a whole bunch of changes over the last 17 years. I became a marketer, kind of a lot. I was an interaction designer and did usability before that. But yeah, 5 years ago when I became a marketer.
But we'll try and get that fixed here in a sec. Lance, how about yourself?
I've been a marketer for probably, 15 years, and doing online the whole time, and really focusing more on CRO for the last 10 years, as I started to realize that the levers on the CRO side and the post-click marketing side had bigger impact quite often than what we could get on the front-end campaign side of things.
Very cool. So it looks like we got the results in from our quick poll. And we have a decent mix, so we don't have too many total beginners in today. It looks like 50%, 52% of people are 1 to 3 years experience, 19% of people with 3 to 5 years experience, 29% of people with 5+ years. So a lot of really experienced marketers in today. So if we jump on, we've got a second live poll question here. And we're just going to ask, where do you currently send your PPC ad traffic? So just to get a feel of when we're talking through some of our CRO tips today, where everyone's at. Do you find deeper pages on your website? Do you have general landing pages? Do you use specific PPC landing pages? Or are you guys not entirely sure where your traffic's ending up? Ollie, I'll pass it over to you again. Do you have recommendations just on where people should send their PPC ad traffic?
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how people are going to answer this one. How's my volume, Sam? You can hear me okay?
Yeah, it's good.
Hello, Sam? That's good. Okay. I don't want to give away what my thoughts are right away. Basically, I would vote for D, the fourth one, a dedicated landing page. And once the result, I think if we wait for the results to come in, and I can explain that so people aren't afraid of answering.
Very cool. And how about you, Lance?
Yeah, I mean, I would have to agree, you know, and I'm certainly not surprised to hear all these view that that we should be sending traffic to dedicated landing pages. I mean, that's a best practice at this point, and certainly in our space, and given what we do, that definitely makes the most sense for all, except maybe arguably for brand traffic. I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, you're typically anything you're doing on PPC is campaign based, so you need a dedicated landing page for that, so you're actually speaking to that campaign. So
I think we had a couple of audio issues, so I might have spoken over or kind of glossed over some of the things you guys have said. So hopefully it's not because I sound like I'm being rude. I think just sometimes I haven't actually been able to hear a couple of the conversations. So we're just quickly deal with that, and we'll move.
Okay.
So our question is it looks like that 57% of our audience is using this. About 30% to on the website, the homepage. Pretty cool using that's really advanced discussion here. Pages. Is there anything you need to really watch out for?
Well, the first one is sending your traffic to a home page. It sounds like we've got some pretty smart people, and you're reading it wrong. Your home page, and it's really a brand central station. You know, that's a destination for organic traffic, or branded PPC, like Lance was saying. Things you can do to what you should be doing, you want to aim for one-to-one there. I mean, on a PPC specific kind of standpoint, one of the biggest mistakes is bad message match, not repeating the copy on your ad in the headline on your landing page. As soon as you have a disconnect there, people just turn around and leave because they get confused, and you're making them do all the work for you. Right? You're not making an easy transition.
Right. I mean, some of the biggest mistakes that I see are, you know, first off, not doing it at all, and just sending traffic to your main website, and not having specialized landing pages. Secondly, you know, beyond that, I'd say not taking it seriously enough. That is, you know, not having a dedicated landing page optimization initiative. And I really love this image actually on the screen because it sort of makes that point. Right? You know, here are people who are all geared up, and then they've got the wrong tool to the job. They're just not taking this seriously, right? And I think of existing ad managers, and it's a, you know, profession, and there's a whole methodology that is utilized to run the campaigns. We should have the same thing on the landing page side. There should be a landing page manager who is managing a whole ecosystem of landing pages. And in my view, not just for PPC, but the soapbox that I'm on is that organizationally there should be a dedicated role for landing. Other mistakes, people do get it. They time on where they're to, and then revisit that. And quite often, when they actually look where they're sending traffic to. Oh, hired 4 years ago. Why are we still sending traffic there? So, you know, just again, I think not having a focused effort on landing pages not knowing where you know.
So I am actually going to go and start testing that just to look at it again and see what resistance is. But from our customers, yeah, it tends to be in the 15% range when they start doing that.
God. See, and that's what blows me away. I mean, we see the same kind of thing. You know, on average, we're seeing roughly at least 20% conversion increase when you move to, for most, you know, especially mature campaigns. I mean, you generally don't have 20% opportunities hanging out there. I mean, you're usually scratching and clawing for 5 or 10% maybe, and to have an easy, low-hanging fruit 20% opportunity out there that people aren't taking advantage of, you know, obviously that just spells opportunity, yeah, for most campaigns out there.
Hey, Ollie and Lon, can you guys hear me again now?
Yeah.
Decided today would be a great day to stop working, which is really unfortunate for everyone listening, but huge apologies there. We're dialed in now, and the third time round we dialed in, the GoToMeeting decided to let us in. So we'll get continued with the webinar. If I happen to say anything you guys have already covered, sound like you're doing a good job recovering it, then apologies. So we'll jump in with our second question, which is, what do you guys think makes a great landing page? And I'll throw that over to you, Lance.
Sure. Yeah, it's funny, you know, I was thinking, but I know it when I see it. I think that, you know, one of the most important elements that I think a lot of people miss is the significance of that first impression. And I mean like sub 1 second initial reaction to that interface after people click that link. And yes, it can, I mean, relevance is important and message match is important, but even prior to that, there's a subconscious reaction that people have when presented with an interface for the first time. And I sort of liken it to a fight or flight type of instinct, right? And it's sort of like if I put a blindfold on you and spun you around and put you in a car and drove you around for a while and took you into a local mall, and into a big department store there, and pulled the blindfold off just for a split second and put it back on, you'd be able to tell immediately if you were in Nordstrom or Walmart, right? And I think the same type of sensation occurs every time someone clicks a link on the web, and certainly an ad link. Their initial reaction is, does this feel like what I was expecting and hoping for or not? And how you get to that feel, how you get past that first step is a tough thing to lay out and give you 5 bullet points for, but it's certainly a sense of clean design, a structured design, some amount of negative space or white space, a sense of hierarchy, or prioritization. Do you get the sense this is sort of the clean, well-lit place, or is it a dark back alley, right? So that's the first impression, I think. Then you've got to make sure that you're aligning with expectations, and achieving the message match that Ollie talked about. Then, in my view, then only can you start to hope that the user looks at your offer and your content, and then obviously at that point you want to make sure that it's compelling for people, and then obviously that the next step is clear as well. So I really do view it as a progression, even though it's one page. There is, from a user experience and psychology standpoint, there are a whole series of steps that take place, often in a matter of seconds, that you really need to design and sort of engineer for. And I don't think a lot of people think about it from that perspective. I think they just sort of slap something together and, yeah, this looks all right, and let's go out there with it. But if you can take the time to really craft it and think through it from a user experience perspective, you're going to do that much better. And that, in my view, is what would make a great landing page.
So Lance, just to jump in on that, it's really well explained. Do you think that could possibly lead to websites all looking too samey? I mean, if we're all trying to make sure that people aren't scared away on their first impression, that they think this is the kind of website that they'd like going to, is part of the psychology there that it's, oh, this is a website I'm really familiar with, even though they haven't been there before, like it's a standard style of landing page? Or is it more about the aesthetic and design, and hey, these guys clearly have taken time and put something really compelling and beautiful together?
That's a great question. I to look and feel the same, and for people to just do what everyone else is doing and what seems to be proven from a sort of template and design perspective. And I think the reality is there's a lot of room for originality still out there. Yes, there are certain best practices that you want to follow generally in terms of hierarchy and scannability and use of white space, but how you position the elements on the page, use of color, all of that, and then obviously the content itself can be customized and made unique to the organization. And we've got some clients that have done a really nice job of that, and they even buck conventional wisdom here and there and don't follow the quote-unquote best practice, and they do just fine. So yeah, I'm sensitive to the idea of landing pages starting to look a lot the same, but at the point that starts to happen, I think it creates opportunity for those that have the courage to differentiate a little bit and to think a little bit differently.
And,
Ollie, would you like to jump in with your thoughts on?
Yeah. I would just say that, especially now, I don't think that's a concern at all. I mean, if you search for anything and start clicking on paid ads, the landing experiences you're going to see are just terrible. Like, so few people are doing it right. So as long as you are trying to do it right, using a dedicated page, and you're trying to create a delightful experience, something that makes someone feel welcome, then you're so ahead of other people that I don't think a fear of something. I don't know. I mean, as Lance was saying, there is something to be said for you begin with best practices. You shouldn't rely on them, and you design your page based on what we know is the best way to start. But best practices end there, in my opinion. when you start testing, that's when you start to shake things up. But you start with the right foundation, with the right base elements. But for me, I think of it in terms of attention. Just stepping back, your ad is what captures someone's attention, right? They're interested because they saw the ad. Your headline then maintains that attention, right? If there's a nice match, they're relaxed. But I know I made a good click, I'm in the right place. And then it's the design of your page that focuses attention on what you want someone to do. People like to be led, whether they know it or not. So, using the right design structures, directional cues, and contrast and encapsulation to highlight what you want people to do, it relaxes them into experiencing your page. It's if you go to the airport, this is how I like to think about it. As soon as you go through security, the first thing almost everybody does is look on a map to see where their gate is. And as soon as you know where it is, you relax. You know what your destination is in the airport, and now you can relax into shopping mode, or you can go to the bar because you know what you know how to achieve your goal because it's been laid out nicely for you. It's the same for a landing page.
Do you think there's anything special about PPC landing pages? I mean, is it making sure that they align with the ad copy, the headline of the ad? Is that what's going to create that great 1-second snapshot too, or is it kind of the same for email and other channels?
I think it's a little bit different. It's different context. Your context is very limited on PPC, right? Because they've just searched for something. The beginning context is just the thoughts in their head, what their desire is. If you're coming from email or something, you're having a conversation already. So sometimes the style of how you talk to people on a landing page from somewhere like that, or a link from a blog post, that's going to be slightly different. It's more conversational. Whereas PPC, it's about that immediate match. Like think if you're coming from a banner ad as well, or a Facebook ad, that visual, that design match needs to happen as well. And our brain processes images so much faster than text. So if you have that immediate, like Lance was saying, if you spin someone around and open their eyes again, if the image is exact, it's that reminder that you're respecting their click and treating them the same way before after the click.
Cool. We're going to jump into our next question now, which is just to look. So one thing we really want to hope the listeners today can go away with is a sense of what they can actually do to make their landing pages better. And one of those things is the tools that we're using. What tools are out there? What are the different?
Yeah, for sure. There are several tools out there. It depends what you're doing. If you're doing landing pages for your campaigns and you need to create them, that's where people run into bottlenecks dealing with dev or software developers or IT. That's where you use Unbounce, right? Because you have to create a page and then you can test it once you create the page. It has testing built in. But if you're testing a page on your website, something that already exists, that's when you use tools like Optimize, test something that already exists. So it depends whether you need to create or, and if you're doing it right, if you're sending to a dedicated landing page, then you probably need to build that. So that would be Unbounce. There's also, some people may be using Google Analytics Content Experiments, which is their new optimization tool. Personally, I don't really like it because we'll talk about testing in a bit, but it stops tests automatically for you, which I don't really approve of. Can sometimes be a little bit premature, but yeah. So like I said, it depends what you're doing. If you're building and testing landing pages, Unbounce. If you're testing something on your page, Optimizely or Visual Website Optimizer.
And just to dive a little bit more into those tools then, so the Optimizers and the Visual Website Optimizers, how do they work exactly? Is it one of those things where you need a lot of tech experience? Is it something that an account manager who's not really a web developer can use?
Yeah, that depends on how drastic your test is. If you're just doing all these things, well, the ones for testing your website, you drop the script on there to give you access to testing. If you're changing the CTA on a button or a headline, anybody can do that. Super easy. They're great for that. If you're doing a big structural change, then you may need to do some coding for the new layout, new design, and plug that in. It's pretty easy to do if you have some technical experience, but it's not like a drag and drop interface on those tools. But yeah, it depends on the complexity of your test. Very easy for editing copy. Or if you want to just remove a part of your page to make it shorter or something like that, that's super simple as
well. Are there any types of website where it works better or worse? So I'm just thinking the difference maybe between e-commerce websites where you'll want to test across thousands of different product pages versus like a
right.
simple lead generation form.
Yeah, it'll be set up with with templates, so every product page will be the same. And that's a big test if you're going to test across every single page. I think you can with those tools. I think you can set up either do just one specific URL or across the board. They're pretty sophisticated tools.
And Lance, what tools are you guys using over at Closed Loop?
We've used a lot of the same tools, and I'm certainly an Unbounce fan for hosted landing pages and having more design competitor to Unbounce. We've used Optimizely, and I like Optimizely for CRO testing. Generally, it's not quite as good for landing page optimization, although it can work if you've got a well-built template, in my view, and that's true of all the code-based tools out there. If you've got a solid template and you can sort of play mix and match a little bit within that template, the code-based tools work pretty well. If you want to start doing more in terms of more structural changes, as Ollie talked about, then you definitely need to bring in some more technical expertise to help make that happen. But we've also used the proxy-based tools as well, like SiteSpect out there, which I actually think is pretty good for larger e-commerce sites, and doing more dynamic testing at the page type level across multiple categories or product pages, for example. So that, it really depends on everyone's situation, type of site, the volume of traffic that they're getting, and then obviously their technical expertise and cost. They're very inexpensive at the low ends to really it could be $19 or $49 a month, to the very high end where it's going to cost you thousands and thousands of dollars per month to maintain the proxy server or something like that.
Great. Cool. Thanks, Lance. We'll jump on to our next question, which is just how we actually decide what to test and where we're getting our data from. So I don't know if you want to jump back in and answer this one, but what do you guys do when you're presented with a landing page or a website and the client just says, hey, make my site better, make my conversion rate better? How do you decide what it is you're actually going to start with?
Well, I mean, I'll start and then throw over to Ollie. I mean, we always want to start with the data. We want to understand our starting point, and it's one of the things that clients sort of obsess about. Before they even begin, often they say, what should our conversion rate be? What conversion rate should we be targeting? And that's really, I think, the wrong question. It's really, where are you starting from, and then let's assess the relative upside from there. There's almost always some upside, but until we know the starting point, we can't accurately assess that. So, I mean, in fact, just yesterday, I was dealing with a client that had what appeared to be a pretty good landing page and form, and I was thinking, gosh, there's probably some upside here, but maybe not a ton. And then I hear that their conversion rate is 26%. And I thought, okay, well, obviously this isn't a situation where there's a double or triple potential. We're not going to get up to 50 or 75% here. So you have to understand where you're starting from, and then from a quantitative standpoint, and then layer in your qualitative review on top of that. And the qualitative review, is something that I think people like you, Sam, and Ollie, and myself, because we've been at this for a while, we probably have a pretty good instinctive sense just from looking at landing pages for a long time for how much upside there is. But I always temper that with the data and say, so if we're starting at 1% and I see all kinds of problems qualitatively, then gosh, we might be able to double, triple conversion, right? If we're starting at 26% and there are only maybe a few opportunities for improvement, then we're looking at a much smaller percentage gain in conversion at that point. So I really try to balance the quantitative with the qualitative review to come up with the forecast for how much impact we think we can have, and then also obviously that informs the test hypotheses that you come up with. But where do you get the data from? Obviously analytics and actual conversion rates and funnel analysis. But I'm a big fan too of making sure that you're getting outside feedback to inform your hypotheses, whether you do usability testing or if you're just relying on a heuristic or expert review. It can be as simple as sitting down and grabbing someone out of the hallway that isn't familiar with your industry and asking them for their opinion. Just the value in getting actual user feedback is just so huge, and you learn things that you generally can't learn any other way. So big promoter of getting some form of feedback to help inform your thinking and your test hypotheses.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's kind of two questions in there. Like deciding which page to test and then what you're going to test on it. So yeah, use your analytics to figure out which page you're going to begin with. It's something Lance was touching on there, like the opportunity to how big is the potential for a test. Sometimes you really want to leave some pages alone. In the marketing we do for our webinars that we run, when we email that from the people on our email list, they're very highly qualified. The trust is already built in because they're familiar with our brand. So when they come to our webinar page, they convert at 73%. And trying to move the needle on that is virtually impossible. We try, but sometimes you have to just move on to something that has a higher potential. I like how Chris Goward from Wider Funnel talks about figuring out your prioritization, and he calls it PIE, P-I-E, so that you score your pages out of 10 on 3 different criteria. So potential, what we were just talking about, like how likely is it you can move the needle, and I is the importance to your business, the impact on revenue of a test, and then E is the effort required. So when you score them all, and then you'll end up with a table which will let you know where you should begin your testing. And then seek out, do that page once you decide to do it. So because that will inform what you test, like on the page. You can uncover, if you put like a little Qualaroo survey widget on your page, ask a question, and people will they'll start telling you what their confusion is, and that can be. We ran a test on our templates page on Unbounce.com, and I just asked a simple question on a widget. What do you think of this template? And I had overwhelming response to 3 questions. Someone was saying, how much are they? Where can I download them, and can I use them in WordPress? Can I do any of those things? So people coming to this page were just completely because the context is missing there. Like, what is the context that you can use them in? So we put some graphics that showed you inside massive conversion lists, just by give context of use, how will these be used? So that is incredibly important.
Yeah, that's a great call. I'm a big fan of Qualaroo as well for exactly that kind of intelligence. That's a good call, Ollie.
And a couple of weeks happen. So typically, if we get a client who wants to do some CRO work with us, they don't have friends. I just jump into AdWords and the dimensions, all of those, and kind of do the PIE thing you mentioned, Ollie, where we'll just work out, okay, of the top 3 or 4 landing pages there, which one is the furthest behind the average conversion rate? Where do we think we're going to be able to get the most benefit or uplift in terms of the results we work with? So for anyone wanting some PPC specific advice, that dimensions tab in your destination URL is a good place to start. We're going to jump on quickly to our next question here. So it's probably in our racing metaphor where the place we start to think about applying the brakes maybe, and just ask, how do we verify that once we get started that we're actually testing the right things? And I don't know if you want to kick off with that, Ollie.
Yeah, I think this is quite closely tied to the next question as well, but I think you start looking at the impact of your tests. So let's say, for example, you're testing the length of a form, right? The number of fields in a form. It's a very common test. You reduce the number of fields, your conversion rate goes up. You're like, yay, I should put this one live. This is the winner. But is it, right? Is that the thing you should be testing? Because now if you look at the quality of your leads, how much time is your sales team spending with these people? If they're low quality, then they're wasting a lot of their time. So the cost of acquiring a customer could go up, right? So your conversion rate's gone up, but your cost of acquiring customers also gone up, so you're testing the wrong thing. You put that back, have the long form, make sure you get high quality leads. So then you need to run tests that improve how qualified people are. So it's different types of information on your page to make sure that the people that are coming through the door are the right people. It's just as important to design to inform people that they're in the wrong place as it is to guide the right people through. Also, like, how long is the test taking? If you have high traffic, but your test is taking a long time because it's kind of flatlining, it's not actually achieving anything, then you're not testing something that's going to move the needle. You want to go for something a bit more high impact. Then maybe it's a radical design change, or certain things. Like if you're one of the most frustrating things is people who just want to test their button color. There are a few instances where that might be a good thing to do, but generally you're just that's a bad thing to test for the most part. So you probably won't see any impact from that. So I think you'll just look at your analytics and your conversion rate. If there's not much of a difference, that's when you need to stop the test.
So WordStream wrote a really good blog post recently on this, where they described that kind of thing as rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic, where move a button for there, change a button color. So I thought that was pretty close. And it's funny you mentioned the form fields, because we had that exact same thing happen with one of our clients. So we made the form a lot shorter. Conversion rates were great, but when we looked at the lead quality, what was actually happening is the agents who were previously getting first name, last name separated rather than just name, were able to use that to look up the people they were trying to sell to and do a lot better job about approaching them with plans that were much more closely tailored to what they might be looking for. Whereas when it went to name, people would just put their first name in or wouldn't give us much information, and then all of a sudden those leads were way less valuable because when the salesperson approached the customer, they didn't have that extra bit of research that they could do. So there's definitely something to look out for sure. Lance, what about you? Have you got any thoughts on testing the right things?
Yeah, I mean, one of the the first things to verify is that you're seeing some variance in your results, right? I mean, good or bad, you're going to learn something at least. And that's one of the things that I think that people should accept going into testing is that a lot of your tests are going to be inconclusive or relatively flat, and that can be sort of frustrating because it takes a lot of time and effort to produce a test and then to come up with results where control and variance are roughly neck and neck can be sort of deflating, but that's part of the process, right? In the scientific method, not everything you do is going to be a winner. You're not going to bat 1,000 on your tests. So you need to be thinking longer term and thinking about multiple testing cycles, and accept that some of your tests are going to be inconclusive or not show much of a difference. Where you do see a difference, that's generally a sign that, okay, we've done something, and ideally it's to the good, right? It's to the positive. But that's the first thing we look for is, is there variance in performance? I love what you guys are talking about in terms of thinking beyond that initial conversion point too, and that's something that we're spending a lot of time on too, is optimizing to the right metric, which is really down funnel. We call it down funnel optimization. How are we ensuring that the change we're making here on what is really, a small step in a much longer customer journey usually, how do we make sure that we're doing the right thing for the business, not just from a sales perspective, but from a from a brand and customer loyalty perspective as well, and so I'm really happy that we're starting to get the metrics to be able to measure those things more now. That's that's really how we go about it, and then we continue to get qualitative feedback as well to see what users are thinking about the variants that we've put out there, and that often informs the next round of testing as well. We'll fix one problem, but sometimes we might create a new one for users. We'll create a question by introducing some new piece of content that didn't exist before. Now, okay, now we've got to address this. So, yeah, a lot goes into that one. I think that's
I have a just a. Go ahead, Sam.
Sorry, go ahead, Ollie.
I have a really good example of that. We were testing our pricing page, the most important page on our website, and I put a table of information in there, trying to explain a little bit more clarity what Unbounce is, and conversion rates went up. Great, that was a really smart move. Love it. Happy, high five. But then 3 weeks later, we find out that was for our main metric is people who sign up for a paid trial, so that went up. 3 weeks later, we saw that the number of people who sign up for free, which is kind of below our main pricing grid, that had plummeted. Like it just went into the ground, and a lot of those people, they'll end up upgrading, right? So they're still really important to us, and it had such a massive impact. And the reason was when we put this extra information in, it pushed the free sign up down the page. People weren't seeing it. And it's only because we looked really deep into our analytics, because metrics we use for down at the bottom end of the funnel. There we saw, wow, all these we're not getting any free signups anymore. So your test makes you think that you've done something right, but you really need to make sure you're looking at the really big picture, like really fine-grained, so you don't make massive mistakes that are going to impact your business.
Very true, and it's kind of tough to know sometimes when you trust that one test is better than the other, because I've seen it multiple times where one test looks like it's absolutely killing it, and then you come back a few days later and they're completely even, and all of a sudden you get that kind of wave of CRO depression wash over you.
Yeah, I mean, that's a discipline we've had to develop for sure, is we've had to resist the temptation to overreact to statistically insignificant data. Because we see that a lot too. That initial spike out of the gate that then moderates.
Yeah, that's the out of the gate thing. almost every single test that I run is dramatic in the first day or so, good or bad. And you have to not look at it, just let it run, because the immediate impact is not going to be a true reflection of your test.
Yeah, you just have to be a total robot, because it's so hard to resist that, and not get excited about it. But yeah, absolutely have to have the discipline not to do that.
So one thing from that WordStream article that I mentioned earlier was Larry Kim kind of saying, if your tests aren't at least 30% better, then don't really worry about them, kind of ignore them. So if you're getting 2 or 3%, even if you think you have statistical significance, it's probably just part of the natural variance. Do you guys buy into that, or do you think any test where we have statistical significance is worth kind of following up?
I think it does vary. I mean, we've got some very large clients that are operating at scale, and where 2 or 3% is absolutely statistically significant and meaningful, and means tens of millions of dollars. So at that scale, that's real, right? And we're tracking it ongoing, of course. But for most organizations, I would tend to agree 2 to 3% is probably in the noise, and shouldn't be declared a hard winner. I mean, perhaps directionally it's something that you can use, and if you want to make that your new baseline, but you would want to continue to track it like a hawk regardless.
Thanks, Hans. We'll just jump on to, we got a lot of really interesting questions, so we're going to kind of jump past that last question there, and let everyone know that all three of us will be speaking at HeroConf, which is coming up at the end of April down in Austin. And these are the different topics we're going to be speaking about. So Ollie's going to be speaking on the live landing page audit session with me. Lance will be on the best of friends CRO tricks to help you dominate PPC. And I will be on an Ask the PPC Hero team anything and power of enhanced site links session as well. And I wanted to just quickly ask you guys before we jump over to the Q&A we've had today, what you're looking forward to most at HeroConf, and what kind of things you're going to be talking about in your sessions. So, Ollie, I'll ask you first.
Yeah, well, doing live landing page critiques is kind of one of my favorite things. You've got to find that balance between being really, really harsh and being gentle. In my experience, people love the brutally honest truth, so I tend to try and go to that end of the scale. I think people learn a lot more that way. I'm also looking forward just to going to Austin. There's a lot of CRO people living in Austin now. In fact, Brian Massey, the conversion scientist, he just put out a press release claiming that Austin is the conversion capital of the world. So we think it's Vancouver in Canada. That's where a lot of us are. So I think we'll have some pretty heated discussions about that.
Well, I guess I'm going to have a tough sell claiming that Sacramento is the conversion capital of the world, but I'll see what I can do there. I'm looking forward to speaking with Chris Goward on CRO tricks to help dominate PPC. I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of other industry leaders out there and hearing the talks. And I've just heard such great feedback on HeroConf and been impressed with the organization thus far. So looking forward to a great show. And like Ollie said, I mean, I love Austin. That's a great town. Should be a lot of fun.
And I'm obviously really excited to see you guys and be on a panel with you, Ollie. I think the great thing about HeroConf from our perspective is just there's so many different industry experts there. We learned so much from the last couple of them that it's kind of impossible to come away without learning a ton of new stuff, I think. So we're super excited. And then I know that our event planning team has been working really hard on getting all the fun extras all set up. So there's a load going on, being sponsoring a bar on one of the nights, and I think we have Bloody Mary morning drinks bar that you can kind of set up yourself. So it's something I'm pretty excited about. It should be a nice few days off from the rigmarole. We have a final live poll question here for everyone. So if anyone out there is listening and you're doing PPC currently and you're spending over $20,000, maybe you're interested in some CRO services as well, we have a free solutions blueprint, so it's no obligation. You don't actually have to sign up or pay us anything. We'll take a look through your accounts, make some audit suggestions, and you can walk away and just take that with you and not have to worry about us, or you can work with us too for getting some great CRO and PPC results. So if you're interested, just let us know in the poll question here, and we'll be back in touch. But without too much further ado, we'll jump into our live Q&A, which we have about 10 minutes for here. Lance and Ollie, I'll kind of quick fire these over to you, and we'll start with you, Lance. So the first question we have is, for an e-commerce site or campaign, do we still need to have these one link actions on a landing page? One link per action on a landing page. So is there something very different about where we're sending our e-commerce traffic to lead gen traffic?
Yeah, I think you still want a dedicated landing page for both. I mean, the difference is for e-commerce, as long as it's a very targeted ad, then your landing page is a click-through landing page at that point, and the idea is to warm someone up to the, to sort of in a position where they're more likely to buy. If they come into your product page, they can get so distracted and start walking around the site, and as soon as they do that, as soon as they click away somewhere, then your campaign has failed, right? And it's hard to learn anything from that. If they come to your landing page and they don't convert by clicking through, it's your messaging. That's something you can work on. But once they're on your site, it's really difficult to figure out why they're not converting.
So would you have a landing page that sits in front of that product page? So let's give an example. For example, I'm searching for Nike shoes, and I click an ad that says Nike shoes at Sam's Shoe Emporium and get to a page. Do you think I'm better off landing on a page that talks about Nike shoes and has offers, and then is like a click here to view all of our Nike shoes, or do you think it's better? So you think that's better than sending people directly through to a product comparison page with a load of Nike shoes on it?
It depends on how generic it is. That's a very generic search thing. So going through to the product page, like the category page, that's probably fine. But if you're doing, let's say it's a promotion, right? You're doing 50% off Nike shoes. The chance of you being able to, say it's a very timely campaign, like, oh, we've got to get this campaign out, we've got to put these things on sale now. The chance of you being able to get a change made to your website, technically getting someone to do it, politically having the stakeholder of that section saying, making a change, that can be a very arduous process. So having that landing page in there that explains the offer and how they can fulfill that offer, then that's a really good thing to put in there. So if it's a campaign, then absolutely. And it's just really, really generic branded search, then not as important.
I have somewhat of a technical question here. So let's say we've got hundreds of these landing pages for PPC that are pretty specific. Maybe we have just a headline tweak to line up with our ad. What are we doing with the robots? Are we making sure that they don't crawl that page, or does it matter? Is that affecting anything else with Google?
So you mean like, should you have them indexed?
Yeah, and should they be crawled? Should they be indexed?
Yeah, I would say no. You're spending all this effort, time, and money driving paid traffic to a page. That's what you need to measure just alone. If you open up to organic traffic, then it's mixing everything together, right? You're not getting a clean look at how your campaign is working, because there's infiltration and there's pollution from other sources. It just muddies the water. So yeah, I wouldn't index something like that. If you stop running campaigns to it and it's more evergreen, it's something that's going to be useful for a long time, then yes. But if it's for a campaign, I would never index it.
Here's a question someone's asked. Oh, sorry, Lance. I'll let you chime in.
No, sorry, I was just agreeing.
Maybe I'll throw this one over to you then, Lance. So someone's asked if you have any examples of really great landing pages. Are there any that you could point people to?
Oh gosh, live landing pages. Well, boy, how do I do that without costing our clients money? Let's think. There are, yeah. I mean, we've got a number of them, and boy, how can I do that? So, I mean, if you looked at the landing pages for Tableau software, for example, I think those are quite good. The landing pages for Blurb, let you make your own book, are generally quite good and well optimized. Those are two examples, and there are a whole series of others that I'll probably include in the presentation at HeroConf as well.
Yeah,
cool.
For reference, if people, it's something I collect all the time. If you go to unbounce.com, you'll see in the main nav, it says landing page examples. If you go in there, it has a bunch of ones that our customers have done, and there's also a set of links at the top there to, list of 35, 26, so like a whole bunch of landing page examples that have critiques and all that kind of stuff, A/B testing tips. So that's a really good reference.
Yeah, that's a great resource. Good call.
Do you have, so I guess we've got time for one final question here before it gets to 1 o'clock. So this is an interesting one. We've been talking a lot about PPC. Someone's asked if we recommend testing organic traffic too with our CRO, if we want to separate them out or keep them combined, or how we're looking at those. And I know the tools like Optimizer and Visual Website Optimizer, when we make changes, unless we have the more expensive packages, they're going to do it kind of across the board. So do you guys have any thoughts on if it's better overall, it's better, or if we need to break it out, organic traffic, paid search traffic, email traffic, etc.?
I'm a fan of separating it out. I think it's better to separate it out and leverage learnings. Take what works on the campaign side and apply that to whatever template you come up with for your focused SEO pages, but generally keeping them separate, as Ollie mentioned.
Yeah, and because you're going to learn a lot more. If like looking at, like, again, going back to our webinar registration pages, from email marketing, 73% conversion rate. The social traffic that goes there converts at about 19%. And if you don't separate that out for your different inbound sources, you're never going to know that. And it's a great way of learning where you shouldn't be spending your time and money. It's focused on what really works. So yeah, I would always separate that out. Have a different page for your email, a different page for your PPC traffic, different for social, because the context is different for everyone, and the level of conversation is different for everyone. So you want to change the content up as well. So I would always separate that.
And I think just from our personal experience running CRO tests, we've seen many tests where the results are significantly better on PPC and significantly worse than organic, and vice versa. So by having those combined, we're kind of leaving a lot of conversions on the table almost.
Right.
So great insight, guys. I think that about wraps it up for today. So really big thank you out there to everyone who stuck on through those early audio problems that we had. Apologies for that. And sorry, guys, if I was talking over you all at the start there. I couldn't hear anything. And just want to say, you can obviously reach out to all of us on Twitter, or reach out to us at hanapinmarketing.com if you want to ask any other questions about anything we've spoken about today. We should be putting the webinar up on PPC Hero in the next couple of days, tomorrow. And if anyone wants to come join us and speak to us all in person at HeroConf, you can get there at heroconf.com, and we'd love to see you April 28th in Austin. So thanks very much, Lance. Thanks very much, Ollie, and I'll see you guys pretty soon.
Thank you, Sam. Looking forward to it.
Thank you, Sam.
Bye, guys.
Bye now.